Good evening, everybody. Steve Lookner here with Agenda Free TV to bring you a live update on the ongoing Iran protests. They're about to enter their third week. I think they technically are in their third week, since the first day was the 28th of December. And currently, it is the 11th of January, right? So they're actually entering their third week, 5:07 a.m. Iran time right now. So we want to give you some updates on what's going on. And hang on a moment here. We're going to take your comments and questions on the air. You can write to me on X, at Lookner on X. We'll also be looking at the chat and bringing you the latest updates here. Thanks to our moderators, we have Ruth and Beezy moderating over there on YouTube. Beth Mythical is moderating over there, thank you. Also, we have Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X. Give me one sec here. On Twitch, we have Idaho Star, Matthew Kohai 3, and Surly Dev moderating over there. Thank you to our moderators. And on Facebook, we have Kay Lowry Body and Margaret Riley moderating right now. Thank you so much. Thanks also to our new members, Riley KSU Fan, WNY Trombone, and American Made 322. There have been reports the last couple days of a number of protester deaths. Hard to really nail down exactly the extent and exactly what's going on there. It does seem like, from the reports that are floating around, that Iran, and the fact that Iran 2 days ago shut off the internet and apparently shut off phone service. It seems like that there is starting to be a harsh crackdown on protesters. The Institute for the Study of War just posted something. We were talking about this last night. They said the Iranian regime has shifted from labeling protesters as rioters to describing them as terrorists, which signals that the regime has taken an uncompromising stance toward the ongoing protests. The regime will likely use its characterization of protesters as terrorists to further justify cracking down on the protests. Institute for the Study of War believes that the regime has killed hundreds of protesters so far and injured hundreds more in its violent crackdown. I'm going to read their report. There's a new report from them tonight, so we're going to read that. Just a little update. They say protest activity has continued to take place across Iran amid the Iranian regime's continued nationwide internet shutdown. They say, we have recorded 60 protests across 15 provinces since 00 midnight local time on January 10th, 25 of which were medium-sized and 8 of which were large. Yeah, I got to let you know, there's reporting about the U.S. considering military action, which we're going to be talking about as well. We'll be looking shortly at this Iran update from the Institute for the Study of War, which you can find at understandingwar.org. We will be checking that out shortly. Thanks, Mr. Negative, for the membership, by the way. I want to begin by talking about this new report in the New York Times. The New York Times is reporting that President Trump is considering options for military strikes in Iran. President Trump has said that if the Iranian regime kills protesters, that the U.S. would attack Iran. Remains to be seen if that's going to happen. He posted 7 hours ago, Iran is looking for freedom. Iran is looking at freedom, perhaps like never before. The USA stands ready to help. President Donald J. Trump. Trump also reposted today Lindsey Graham, who said, "This is truly not the Obama administration when it comes to standing up to the Iranian Ayatollah and his religious Nazi henchmen and standing behind the people of Iran protesting for a better life. To the regime leadership, your brutality against the great people of Iran will not go unchallenged. Make Iran great again." President Trump reposted that. So it's interesting. The New York Times tonight is saying that Trump has been briefed on options for striking Iran. So I want to pass along. And then Wall Street Journal had some new reporting on this too. So I want to discuss that with you. Thanks, Lisa, our new member, and Sahar Pawelski, our new member. Thanks, Leor Engelstein. Leor says, "I have seen rumors that a high-level Iranian official was killed with a drone. Any truth to that?" I don't know for sure what's going on in Iran. No source I follow, no source I'm aware of, has posted that a high-level Iranian official was killed in Iran with a drone. Last night, so the best I can tell you, Leor, is I have not seen reporting of that anywhere. Last night, people kept posting in our chat claiming that the supreme leader was dead. And what I kept saying is, look, I don't know for sure what's happening there, and I don't know where you're getting this stuff. But not a single source of all of the sources, American, international, Arabic language, Persian language, experts I follow, social media, no one had said this. So I don't know where people were getting this stuff. There's all kinds of rumors that have been going around, as often happens with Iran news. But I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware that anybody a high-level Iranian official was killed with a drone. I had seen no reporting on it. I've seen no reporting that the supreme leader is dead or has left. So again, I'd be careful with the rumors. I'd be careful with the rumors. Thank you again, Leor Engelstein. I appreciate it. Let's talk about some of the new reporting. Okay, so tonight the New York Times is saying that President Trump in recent days has been briefed on new options for military strikes in Iran. They're saying that he hasn't decided whether to launch a military strike on Iran. They're saying he's considering it as a response to the regime cracking down on the protesters. The Times says that President Trump's been given a range of options, and that includes strikes on non-military sites in Tehran. Again, the Times says that the options include strikes on non-military sites in Tehran. I don't know what those might be. I mean, you might wonder, might they try to take out the supreme leader? I don't know. I would like to play you if I have it. I wonder if I have it here. I wonder if I have his comment on Friday, the video of it. If not, I'll just read it to you. but I might be able to play it for you here. So he spoke on Friday. I'd have to find it. That was probably he probably said this at the oil meeting on Friday with the oil executives. Right. I bet I can find it here for you. Let me see if I can find where he took questions and then talked about Iran. Give me a moment here. I'm going to pull it up here. That would be helpful.
Pakistan, we're already, I look forward to meeting with them when they start killing.
You just said that these companies would have security guarantees.
Want that to happen. There have been cases like this where President Obama totally got that.
Here, I found it. I found it. Okay, so this is President Trump on Friday. Here's what President Trump had to say on Friday. Ready?
Oil out of the ground, yeah.
How long do you think the Ayatollah will be in power after what we've seen play out on the ground there? When is the U.S. going to get involved now that reports of protesters being killed on the ground?
So Iran's in big trouble. It looks to me that the people are taking over certain cities that nobody thought were really possible just a few weeks ago. We're watching the situation very carefully. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. And that doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it means hitting them very, very hard where it hurts. So we don't want that to happen. There have been cases like this where President Obama totally backed down. But this is something pretty incredible that's happening in Iran. It's an amazing thing to watch. They've done a bad job. They've treated their people very badly, and now they're being paid back. So let's see what happens. We're watching it. We're watching it very closely.
So he did say that that if they strike, they'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. And it doesn't mean boots on the ground. Now look, I think, I'm no military expert, but if the regime, to me, if the supreme leader in the Iranian regime feels that the protests are putting its survival at risk, I don't think, a few missiles launched at some Iranian military targets are going to change their mind on how to respond. Again, if the regime thinks that the protests are threatening the survival of the regime, I can't imagine that some missiles launched at military targets are really going to change. So the idea is that some missiles will hit some military targets and they'll say, okay, we give up, protesters. You can now control the country. That doesn't make much sense. So what that makes me think is that it's going to have, if there's a military response which is really designed to change the behavior of the regime, it's going to have to be more than, a few missiles launched at some military targets. Also, at this point, you would think that the Iranian regime knows there might be strikes launched at military targets, so they'd probably take whatever precautions they could to avoid, having too much at one target or whatever. They know they're coming if they come, if they're just the standard strikes. So I don't know what's going to happen, but, I'd be surprised if it was just like, well, we launched a dozen missiles at military targets. I just don't see how that really changes things. Now, Atlas Smirk said, our viewer says decapitation strike. So is there a world in which they go after the supreme leader? Although, honestly, if you take out the supreme leader, but that's it, the regime is still there. And the regime I would assume, has some sort of succession plan. So, I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll have to see. Hold on a second here. Hang on. Matt Sechelek says, why strike when people are going to overthrow anyways? Well, I think the White House's thought is that the regime is going to try to put it down with put the protest down with violence as they have done in the past, and that the violence may stop the protesters. So again, the New York Times is reporting that President Trump is considering new options for striking Iran, and some of them include strikes on non-military sites in the capital. The Times says that the U.S. has to be careful that military strikes don't galvanize the Iranian public to support their government or trigger retaliatory strikes by Iran that could threaten U.S. military or diplomatic personnel in the region. I don't know how capable Iran is of carrying that out at this point, and if they would want to do that at this point. All right, so that's being reported. And then I believe the Wall Street Journal had a similar report. Yeah, so the Wall Street Journal is reporting something similar. Our viewer, the Alderin, thinks oil infrastructure may be a target. Toolman thinks they would have to target the regime's ability to retaliate by taking out military/police stations along with ammunition storage. Soccer fan Machado believes they are probably just plotting the attacks. You mean the U.S.? Slide of One says we want regime change. Chad Penguin LGB says regime was mostly killed off last year by Israel. They have replaced key dead figures 3 times already. They're going to run out. I don't know that the regime was mostly killed off by Israel, but there were a number of higher up people in the regime killed by Israel at the start of and during the 12-day war in Iran. Parvin Kumar says it's a difficult situation for USA to get involved because of nationwide protests. Only thing is to supply arms to the freedom fighters to defend themselves or send special forces inside Iran. BC Blue thinks nothing will change with this evil regime. And Iranian people will never follow Islamic regime. That's what BC Blue says. All right, so the Wall Street Journal, for their part, is saying that Trump administration officials have had preliminary discussions about what an attack on Iran might involve. The Wall Street Journal says one option being considered is a large-scale aerial strike on multiple Iranian military targets. Also, another official told the Wall Street Journal that there was no agreement yet on what the military strike would be, and no military equipment or personnel had been moved in preparation for one yet. Maybe we'll do a poll. Will Trump strike Iran to help the protesters? That's a way of putting it succinctly. Hey, thanks, Twitch. Twitch, it looks like you guys got a new emote from the hype. Am I right, Twitch? From the hype train? Thank you, Twitch supporters. I appreciate that. Now, there you go. Daciara. I don't even know what those mean. I was going to post the poll on Twitch. Hey, thanks, Twitch supporters. I'll thank some people in a second there. Thank you to TechSlug and also Cartawampus, Estern42 on Twitch, Cryptic Logic, Night Owl, Breakin407, Monkey, CC for the gift sub. Oh, it's a Golden Kappa train, whatever that is, on Twitch. Daciaran. They call me Taj, Chi-Town Deek, Yup Yup and Yup on Twitch. TechSlug gave 5 people subs on Twitch. Thank you, TechSlug. That's very nice of you. Flumpingtons, Tuckfexus, Devil Doc, Soul Wolf, Sick BWM, I'm Lucky 6. 13 Alamo, Fate 64 on Twitch. Thank you. CC, Sarah7575, Edu Makashun. I got behind thanking people on Twitch. Cupcake Maria, Pogo Bukin, Tugboat MJ. Thanks for your support on Twitch. Also, thank you to... Oh, I got to show you the poll results. Let's see the poll results. Thank you. Superflood, I Am Charlie, Ada60, Vegas Mark, Cartoon Maps, Steve Long, Beard, Berea Beard, Brandy75, Mitchell Pilot, thank you. One of the viewers, Superflood, says, this is not the Iranian flag. Why do you show your agenda? This flag is a flag that many protesters have used. This is a news stream about the protests. So this flag is up there because it's a symbol of the protests. It's not telling you what to think about the protests. So I would respectfully disagree that having this commonly used protest flag is a symbol of the channel's agenda. It is the Iranian lion and sun flag. It is a historic Iranian national flag, which was used before the 1979 Islamic Revolution. The flag is used among Iranian opposition movements and Iranian diaspora. So again, no agenda intended. All right, let's show you the poll results. Let's show you the poll results. Oh, hold on. Okay. I said to you guys, will Trump strike Iran to help the protesters? Over on YouTube, here is what people said. 70% think yes. 71% think yes on YouTube. How about on Twitch? Well, let me pull it up for you. 65% on Twitch. Wow. The large majority of you guys think that Trump is going to strike Iran to help the protesters. Overheadis says, I think Trump is more focused on Greenland. The King of Wit says, I think Trump will strike Iran. I do not think it will help the protesters, so that is the intent. Again, President Trump has said he will strike the Iran if the Iranian regime kills protesters. Reportedly, that has already happened. We're going to talk about that. We'll see. We'll have to see. I want to talk about some of these reports of fatalities that are starting to come out more. Very hard to get an exact picture of what's going on there, by the way. You can see here, AP says death toll in violence surrounding protests challenging Iran's theocracy reaches 116, activists say. Some say it's a lot more than that. But it's just so hard to tell. Remember, internet blackout there. Supposedly phones don't work either. Hey, a quick thank you to, thanks for voting in our poll. Thank you so much, David Fisher, 4006. That's really nice of you, David Fisher. Thank you. Thanks also, Ricardo Galvan. Thank you, Ricardo, for supporting the channel. Thanks, The Jeremy Social. The Jeremy Social says the same U.S. administration that turned a blind eye and supplied the genocide against the Palestinians is now concerned about the well-being of Iranian protesters. Am I missing something? Thanks also, Kaz Flanagan and Amir Hossein. Amir says, as an Iranian, Amir says, Amir says, as an Iranian, the lion and sun flag is the true flag of Iran. That's what Amir says. BC Blue said they saw something about 2,000 deaths in 48 hours. Faytux News posted something about that. Again, it's just, it's so hard to tell. I'm not going to, I can't claim to have solid information on it. Where did Faytux News post a report from? So Iran International, which is, they are no fans of the regime. It's a news outlet that reports about Iran, but they are not a fan of the Iranian regime. Just a little background on them. Iran International is a Persian language satellite television channel and multilingual digital news operation established and funded by Saudi Arabia, who is known as an enemy, like the big enemy of Iran, or one of them, aimed at Iranians and people interested in Iranian news, culture, politics, society, and sports. Now, that doesn't mean they're not reporting true stuff. That doesn't mean that at all, but it's something to keep in mind. They had a report today about killings, mass killings in Iran again of protesters. And they said, and they have posted some videos. I don't have the rights to show them. I wouldn't show videos of bodies anyway. There are some videos that are making their way around the internet, supposedly showing numerous bodies of protesters in multiple locations. Now, Iran International said the most conservative estimates indicate at least 2,000 people have been killed over the last 48 hours. I don't know if that's the most conservative estimates, because I have an article right here that says 116. But I'm not saying Iran International is wrong. I'm just saying there's a wide range of reports about this. Let me read you a little of this. AP says nationwide protests challenging Iran's theocracy reached the 2-week mark Sunday as the death toll in violence surrounding the demonstrations reached at least 116 people killed, activists said. Again, it could be way more than that. Maybe it's not. I just don't know. The U.S.-based human rights activists news agency gave the new figure, saying arrests had reached more than 2,600 people as well. That agency has been accurate in multiple rounds of unrest previously. The supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has signaled a coming clampdown despite warnings from President Trump that America could intervene to protect peaceful demonstrators. On Sunday, Iran escalated its threats, with Iran's Attorney General, Mohammad Movahidi Azad, warning that anyone taking part in the protests will be considered an enemy of God, a death penalty charge. AP also says there's an intensifying crackdown going on. With the internet down in Iran and phone lines cut off, gauging the demonstrations from abroad has grown more difficult. And it's difficult to begin with. So again, the Attorney General of Iran on Sunday warned that anyone taking part in protests will be considered an enemy of God, a death penalty charge. This picture is a picture released on Friday. That's a picture from Iranian state TV showing somebody, looks like they're filming the burning of vehicles in Zanjan, Iran. This is a photo AP obtained showing people in Tehran at a protest on Friday. That is a photo showing a fire as people protest in Iran on Friday in Tehran. Let's see. In the past, remember, multiple times in the past, Iran has shut down the internet when protests have happened, and then once the internet was shut down, ramped up crackdowns on the protesters. Save Your Brain Kill TV says Starlink is getting videos in info out of Iran. I have seen some reports that there are some Starlink videos floating around. I can't confirm those vids are legit, but I've certainly seen some reports of that. Jarrett Najalki, our viewer, says, I've seen reports ranging from dozens to several hundred, so who knows? I also want to check and see. Hey, by the way, thanks to Stubmaster on Twitch for your support. Thanks also, Allison Hargroves for the memberships. I appreciate that, Allison. And Bart and Terry on Kamano. Thank you for the memberships. Please make sure you thank somebody if they give you a gift membership or gift subscription. Thanks, Tom Brazi on Twitch. And also, thanks, Ahmad Pirati, for your support from the UK, and Tarat223 and Darren Bees. Thank you. I'm going to check also. I've been, some of the Iranian media outlets, state media outlets, have been posting on Telegram. So I've been checking that. I want to pull that up for a second. Also, BBC News has some reporting on this that I want to mention to you. We got to look at the Institute for the Study of War update too. We really should do that. I want to show you that in a second. That's a good one to look at. But let me just see what I'm seeing here. Let's see if I have any. Updates the last few minutes from, let's see, who should I check? I should check Tasneem, and I could check Fars. Fars is state media in Iran. Trying to load their Telegram. Seems to not be loading. Doesn't want to load. That's interesting. Oh, I got it. Let's look at the Tasneem News, by the way, which is, I believe, state media. Yes, it's a state media news agency. They posted on Telegram, and they said, they posted earlier today on Telegram, they said Trump's renewed support for rioters and armed terrorists in Iran. Tasneem Iranian state media said, Donald Trump, who has imposed the most cruel and illegal sanctions on the Iranian people to bring them to their knees, called the rioters and armed terrorists the Iranian people, and said he was ready to help them, the rioters and armed terrorists. They say he had previously claimed he would embark on a military adventure in favor of the rioters. Now, this is also very interesting. This is a report from Iranian state media. So remember, we're going to talk more about him, but the son of the Shah of Iran, the Shah of Iran was the monarch in Iran, the last Iranian ruler who was overthrown last Iranian ruler before the Iranian Revolution in 1979. And the last ruler before the Iranian Revolution was the Shah of Iran. His son, Reza Pahlavi, now lives, I believe, in Washington in the U.S. And he has become a popular figure among some of the protesters. And he had called for people to protest on Thursday and Friday night, and a bunch of people had gone and done that in Iran. So last night he said he wanted people to go out on Saturday and Sunday at 6 p.m. He said he called for a strike in key industries in Iran. He said that the protesters needed to start taking and holding city centers in Iran. Okay, so I'm looking at Tasnim, which is state media. And here's a report from Tasnim today. They said, despite the call of the Israeli junta, so they're saying Israel is helping to call for this, and the relentless efforts of the hostile and royalist media. So by royalist, I think they mean support the old Iranian monarchy, because the Shah was part of a monarchy. So despite the call of the Israeli junta and the relentless efforts of the hostile and royalist media to bring people to the streets at 6 p.m. on Saturday, which is what Reza Pahlavi called for, the insightful people of Islamic Iran did not heed those calls, says state media. According to reports from Tasnim reporters from across the country, Islamic Iran experienced a peaceful night in all cities and provinces tonight, with no reports of widespread gatherings or chaos. The counter-revolution and rioters' attempts to continue the chaos and unrest across the country tonight were unsuccessful, and the guards and security forces responded decisively to any moves that violated national security and put the rioters in their place. So just to show you this is from, again, Tasnim State Media. That is their report about the protest activity on Saturday night. There's many reports online saying that there were large protests. So there it is. That's the Tasnim report, state media, about Saturday. Our viewer Abel thinks the government is very scared. One of our viewers said that means the opposite. That's what Dean DeVillers said. Anyways, I wanted to pass along what they said. Also, Tasnim State Media also said, they posted earlier on Saturday, and they said the armed terrorists who carried out anti-security measures, massacres against innocent people, and burning mosques and public property last night revived memories of ISIS in their barbarity. The last couple days I have noticed, and I've talked about on our streams, that Iranian state media is a lot of times is calling the protesters terrorists and suggesting that terrorist groups are involved with the protesters. We're going to take some more comments from you guys. Also, I am going to show you this new report from Institute for the Study of War. Anything new from Reza Pahlavi tonight? Oh, guys, new statement. New statement from Reza Pahlavi 7 minutes ago. Look, it's Reza Pahlavi, the son of the Shah of Iran. He lives outside of Iran, but he has been a voice calling for people to protest. A bunch of protesters have been saying they support him. It's debated how much real support he has. He has said he wants to not run the country, but be a transition to it, help transition them to a democracy. He posted 7 minutes ago, kindly know that you are not alone. Your compatriots around the world are proudly shouting your voice, and you must surely see images of their numerous and widespread presence through your television screen. The world today stands beside your national revolution and admires your courage. In particular, President Trump, as the leader of the free world, has carefully observed your indescribable bravery and has announced he is ready to help you. Do not abandon the streets. My heart is with you. I know that I will soon be by your side. That is from 7 minutes ago. You know, let me just see, because I think I can. Let me go through and I can read the translation at the bottom of his. This is his new statement. All right, so he says, by your widespread and courageous presence in the streets across Iran for the third consecutive night. Now, they've been protesting for 2 weeks, but he started calling for protests Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So by third consecutive night, he means Thursday, Friday, Saturday. In the streets across Iran for the third consecutive night, you have severely weakened the Supreme Leader Khamenei's repressive apparatus and his regime, says Reza Pahlavi. Reliable reports have reached me indicating that the Islamic Republic is facing a severe shortage of mercenaries, people they would pay to fight for them. Okay, and let's see, to confront the millions of people in the streets. And so far, many armed and security forces have left their workplaces or disobeyed orders to suppress the people. Is that true? I have no idea. That's what Reza Pahlavi is saying. He says, what remains for the Supreme Leader Khamenei is a minority of violent mercenaries who, like their criminal leader, are non-Iranian and anti-Iranian and consider you, the great nation of Iran, their enemy. Know that they will face consequences for their actions. While reiterating my second call for 6 p.m. today, Sunday, I ask all of you to go to the main streets of the cities in groups with your friends and family members. Along the way, do not separate from one another or from the crowds of people. And do not take side streets that could endanger your lives. Know that you are not alone. Your compatriots around the world are proudly shouting your voice. And you will surely see images of their numerous and widespread presence on television screens. The world today stands with your national revolution and admires your courage, he says. In particular, President Trump, as the leader of the free world, has closely observed your indescribable bravery and has declared he is ready to help you. Do not abandon the streets. My heart is with you. I know that I will soon be by your side. Reza Pahlavi, there you go. So that's his new message to the protesters. Just came out a few minutes ago. He says he's calling for them to go out at 6 p.m. local time on Sunday. Ben Vance said, "This is so strong." Dorothy Oz says, "Power for the people, fight for your freedom by voice in the streets together." I do want to point out that yesterday, again, yesterday he posted a message like that. This is the one from yesterday. And he said, go out on Saturday and Sunday at 6 p.m. Come to the streets with flags, images, and national symbols and claim public spaces as your own. Our goal is no longer to merely come to the streets. The goal is to prepare for seizing the center of cities and holding them. I'm not aware that the protesters have yet seized the center of any city and are holding it. But he says that's a goal. He said yesterday, to achieve this goal, move toward the more central parts of the cities from different routes as much as possible and connect separate crowds. At the same time, prepare now to stay in the streets and gather the necessary supplies. He also called for a strike in key industries. I have no idea if that's happening. You can see here, I invite workers and employees in key sectors of the economy, especially transportation, oil, gas, and energy, to begin the nationwide strike. I'm not sure how that stands. But again, that's Reza Pahlavi, son of the Shah of Iran. By the way, thanks Man Dizzle for the membership. Thank you, Nikolai, for your support. Thanks, TK592, who says the people have the power. Rocky Coast says, I hope he's not writing checks he can't cash. What in the World TV says, when did the internet get cut? How are people supposed to read his posts? I mean, I guess I understand the question. Maybe the hope is that, a few people will read his posts and they'll pass it along to everyone else. Maybe they're being distributed other ways besides posting on X. Leor Engelstein says, I pray the people of Iran succeed. I don't know what Iranian protesters think when they see this. Do they think, yes, that's exactly what we're going to do? Or do they think, as our viewer who said the checks he can't cash, are there some people who say, well, he's not here, so I don't know that I want to follow his direction since he's not here? I've read some articles about the protests, and one thing a number of articles say is they say that the protests, they lack a leader. They have they're not unified, the protesters. And some of them have different goals. Some of them are calling for the monarchy to come back. That would be the monarchy ruled by a king. It's passed down hereditarily through the children. Some of them want that. And some of them don't want that, for example. So that's one difference among the protesters. But there's not a clear leader. Now, he's kind of emerged as a figure that a lot of people are talking about, but it's also not clear how much support he has. And remember, I mentioned that The Economist said in their article about the protests a couple days ago, The Economist said in their article, they said, for the first time since the mass protests in 2009, most Iranians appear to be rallying behind a single opposition figure. Really large crowds poured onto the streets only after Reza Pahlavi, the 65-year-old son of the last Shah, called on January 6th for mass action from his home in Washington. Some of those protesters remain committed royalists. Many more cling to his name out of despair, says The Economist. They quoted one Tehran teacher as saying, "We know he's a clown, but no other opposition figure has his brand recognition." Other protesters are hostile to the idea of the monarchy. The Economist says in Kurdish and Azeri areas, protesters chant "No to tyranny," whether Khamenei or the Shah. President Trump has not backed Reza Pahlavi. The Economist said he has called Mr. Pahlavi a nice person while questioning whether it would be appropriate to meet him. All right, we're going to get you more updates here. Give me one moment. Vader says, when does a protest become a revolution? Our viewer, Moose's Backyard, says, I don't think the Iranian regime will fall only with internal pressure. It will depend on external intervention, which is a double-edged sword. Even with external intervention, there will be significant resistance and bloodshed. That's what Moose's Backyard thinks. Our viewer. I want to mention what the Institute for the Study of War is reporting today about the situation. Michelle Lauzone, our viewer, says, "Glory to Iran without a tyrant." Oh, by the way, you know what I should do? I have a little video to show you here. I have a video that came out today from Reuters that I want to show you before showing you the Institute for the Study of War update. So Reuters has an article, Iran authorities signal intensified crackdown as unrest grows. Hey, by the way, thanks to our moderators who are here. I really appreciate it. We have Beth Mythical and Ruth Modding on YouTube. Thank you so much. Our viewer Orga says, I think if Pahlavi will really commit to being interim leader while transitioning the country to democracy, he will be mostly accepted. Thanks to our Twitch mods, 13 Alamos, Cerrero, LB Prairie Dawn, Idaho Star, Matthew Kohai, 3 Sarah, and Surly Dev, big thanks. Our Facebook moderators too, Kay Lowry, Body, Margaret Riley, Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X. Thanks to all of our moderators. Michael H. says they have burned police stations, banks, and mosques in many cities. I have heard reports of that kind of thing going on. I can't really confirm it myself. One person who is a good person to follow for videos and reports is BBC's Shayan Sardarazadeh. Here is his page, senior journalist at BBC Verify. He has been posting threads every day of verified videos. He just started a new thread 12 minutes ago. So I'll post a link to his new thread. He just posted a video. I don't have the rights to these videos. He posted a video of heavy clashes in Mashhad. Protesters hide behind barricades as security forces fire shots from a footbridge. So what he'll do is they'll verify the location, for example, and they'll post a link to the location, and they'll tell you who the original video was posted by. I don't know who originally took it, but so you can go to Cheyenne86. He just started a new thread. Did I read that wrong? He said, yeah, I read what he wrote. All right. I was going to show you this video, but you can see Reuters is saying Iran's authorities indicated today they could intensify their crackdown on the biggest anti-government demonstrations in years, with the Revolutionary Guards blaming unrest on terrorists and vowing to safeguard the governing system. Remember, they shut off the internet 2 days ago there, which seems to suggest that a crackdown may be imminent and possibly has already started. President Trump posted on social media today, Iran is looking at freedom perhaps like never before. The USA stands ready to help. There were fresh reports of violence across Iran, although an internet blackout made it difficult to assess the full extent of unrest. After nightfall on Saturday, new videos posted online purported to show fresh protests in a number of neighborhoods in the capital, Tehran, and several cities, including Rasht in the north, Tabriz in the northwest, and Shiraz and Kerman in the south. Reuters could not immediately verify the latest videos. Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of Iran's last Shah, who we talked about moments ago, who has emerged as a prominent voice in the fragmented opposition, made his strongest call yet for the protest to broaden into a revolt to topple the clerical rulers. State media said a municipal building was set on fire in Karaj, west of Tehran, and blamed rioters. State TV broadcast footage of funerals of members of the security forces it said were killed in the protests in Shiraz, Qom, and Hamadan. Footage posted Friday on social media showed large crowds gathered in Tehran and fires lit in the street. In one video verified by Reuters, showing a nighttime protest in Tehran's Saadatabad district, a man is heard saying the crowd had taken over the area. The crowd is coming, death to dictator, death to Khamenei, he said, referring to the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Protests have spread across Iran since December 28th, beginning in response to soaring inflation and quickly turning political, with protesters demanding an end to clerical rule. The authorities accused the U.S. and Israel of fomenting unrest. A senior U.S. intelligence official described the situation as an endurance game. The opposition was trying to keep up pressure until key government figures either flee or switch sides, while the authorities were trying to sow enough fear to clear the streets without giving United States justification to intervene, the official said. I have not been hearing about any kind of high-level government defections or security defections, army defections. Haven't been hearing that at this point. Speaking of the army, Now, by the way, you can see here, a witness in western Iran, reached by phone, said Revolutionary Guards troops were deployed and opening fire in the area from which the witness was speaking. Again, unconfirmed. In a statement broadcast by state TV, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, an elite force which has suppressed previous bouts of unrest, accused terrorists of targeting military and law enforcement bases over the last 2 nights. The Revolutionary Guard Force said several citizens and security personnel had been killed and public and private property set on fire. The Revolutionary Guard said safeguarding the achievements of the Islamic Revolution and maintaining security was a red line. The regular military also issued a statement saying it would protect and safeguard national interests, the country's strategic infrastructure, and public property. So again, it doesn't seem at the moment that the military, the security forces are abandoning the regime at all. We'll have to see what happens. And then here's another unconfirmed report of protesters injured and killed. A doctor in northwestern Iran said since Friday, large numbers of injured protesters had been brought to hospitals. Some were badly beaten, suffering head injuries and broken legs and arms, as well as deep cuts. At least 20 people in one hospital had been shot with live ammunition, 5 of whom had later died. I can't confirm that. Iran's rulers, says Reuters, have weathered repeated bouts of unrest, including student protests in 1999, protests over a disputed election in 2009, protests against economic hardships in 2019, and in 2022 over the death in custody of a woman accused of violating dress codes. On Friday, we told you this, we read you the Supreme Leader's statement yesterday. On Friday, the Supreme Leader accused protesters of acting on behalf of Trump, saying rioters were attacking public properties and warning that Tehran would not tolerate people acting as mercenaries for foreigners. I have a video from this article to show you. Let me take a couple comments and I'll show you that video. Evelyn in Maine says, historically, these rumors appear in every major Iranian protest wave. Sometimes they reflect real fractures. Sometimes they're morale signals, and sometimes it gets cut off. But yeah, so The Economist in their article this week talked about how there have been numerous previous protests periods in Iran where people said, that's it, the regime is done, and the regime was not actually done. Udon Ball says they are burning building and citizens' cars. I have seen videos showing cars that have been burned. I can't really speak to the verification of those videos, but it seems I've seen enough to make me think that that's probably happened in some places. I don't know to what degree. Zeus Lee says if they are killing guards or if Revolutionary Guard defects and if they're taking government buildings, they'll get weapons. Foresee Blue says what one man calls a terrorist is another man's freedom fight. Dockport, our viewer, thinks problem is the Iranian people don't have an ideology. That's why they won't succeed in revolution. Thanks, by the way, to the Door Wayok. Hey, the Door Wayok, you said Pahlavi just posted a new video. I think you're probably talking about the one I literally just, a few minutes ago, we actually read the new video. We showed and read the new video by Reza Pahlavi. So I think you might have just missed it. Thank you, The Door Wayuk. I really appreciate that. Thanks also, Mitchell Pilot. I really appreciate Mitchell Pilot. Thanks for your support. Also, the NJ Weave. Thank you, NJ Weave, for your support. Silent Hero 07, Brittany Coy 6392. You know, Mitchell Pilot, by the way, said send in some stealth drones and drop leaflets. I did see a number of purported videos from Iran in the last day that purported to show surveillance drones and people on the ground like yelling and giving the finger and being angry at the surveillance drones. I can't confirm this, but I saw several videos that claimed to show it looked like the regime flying these surveillance drones over the protests. Thanks, Man Dizzle, for the membership. Let's take a look at this video from Reuters. Hold on. That goes with that story. Oh, thanks to Ice Dragon on Twitch, Scary Atheist on Twitch, True Venom on Twitch, Big Dog Gaming on Twitch, and LS Smokey on Twitch, and Stubmaster. All right, let's look at this video about the protests from Reuters here. Hang on a moment. I'm putting it up on the screen right now for you. Okay, there it is. Let me just make sure the sound is going to play correctly. Okay, I think we're good to go. Let's check out this video from Reuters.
Iran's authorities indicated on Saturday they could intensify their crackdown on the biggest anti-government demonstrations in years. The Revolutionary Guards blamed the ongoing unrest on terrorists and vowed to safeguard the Islamic Republic. That's after imposing an internet blackout on the country on Friday in further attempts to quell action. There were fresh reports of countrywide violence overnight, with footage released on social media showing the burning of a mosque in Tehran. That was a day on from President Donald Trump issuing a further warning that the US could intervene. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei the same day said protesters were acting on behalf of Trump, accusing the US and Israel of sparking action. Demonstrations initially began in response to soaring inflation, but have morphed into challenges against the Islamic Republic's clerical rule. And the exiled son of Iran's last Shah, who's emerged as a prominent oppositional voice, made his strongest call yet for a revolt to topple the establishment. Authorities have described protests over the economy as legitimate, while condemning what they call violent rioters over the past 2 weeks. Rights groups have documented the deaths of dozens of protesters during the clashes. There were fresh reports of countrywide violence overnight, with footage released on social media showing the burning of a mosque in Tehran. That was a day on from President Donald Trump issuing a further warning that the US could intervene.
I hadn't seen that one. That was a burning mosque, apparently. I hadn't seen that video. Sorry, I think I was muted for a second. Thanks, by the way, to the Door Wayuk. Oh, I thanked the Door Wayuk already. Well, I thanked the Door Wayuk again. All right, hold on a moment here. Give me a moment. Give me one moment. going to take some more of your comments, going to show you what the Institute for the Study of War has to say about the latest in the Iran protests. One of our viewers thought the mosque video was from last night. Did I thank Silent Hero? Thank you, Silent Hero, for being a member. You know, so we mentioned that the New York Times and Wall Street Journal are saying that President Trump is considering options for striking, for launching some sort of strike on Iran in response to a crackdown on the protesters. He's been saying that. Let me again play you what he said on Friday. Hold on. Let me show you what he said on Friday again. I can pull it up here. This was Friday right here.
How long do you think the Ayatollah will be in power after what we've seen play out on the ground there? When is the U.S. going to get involved now that reports of protesters being killed on the ground?
So Iran's in big trouble. It looks to me that the people are taking over certain cities that nobody thought were really possible just a few weeks ago. We're watching the situation very carefully. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. And that doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it means hitting them very, very hard where it hurts. So we don't want that to happen. There have been cases like this where President Obama totally backed down. But this is something pretty incredible that's happening in Iran. It's an amazing thing to watch. They've done a bad job. They've treated their people very badly, and now they're being paid back. So let's see what happens. We're watching it. We're watching it very closely.
Talking about hitting them very hard where it hurts. What does that mean? Hitting them very hard where it hurts. Could there be a strike on the supreme leader? Would he ever attempt that? One of our viewers said oil. One viewer says big bombs. One says financially. One says the CIA is involved. Airstrikes on Tehran, says Bark Bark. By the way, there are some protesters out in Los Angeles. I don't have the rights to it. I'm watching an aerial shot of a protester anti-ICE rally in Los Angeles. I'm seeing a protester taken into custody there. Give me one moment here. Oops, get rid of that. Hang on one second. Okay, let's talk about some more updates about this whole situation. And I want to show you what the Institute for the Study of War had to say. They came out with a new update about this today. Hey, thanks to Firestar. Firestar thinks Trump could be using Venezuela and Iran destabilizing as a way of increasing global oil prices. I believe isn't Venezuela supposed to decrease the prices because he's bringing more oil onto the market? Isn't that the thought with Venezuela? I don't know. You're saying it's destabilizing to attack them? Thank you, Firestar. Banana Dough says, in LA, it's not a super big protest, but it's something. Hold on a moment here. Let me check one thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea if the U.S. is going to do something like a military action. We'll just have to wait and see. I mean, President Trump posted, the USA stands ready to help. I mean, that's not in itself doing something concrete. He also reposted Lindsey Graham saying that your brutality against the great people of Iran will not go unchallenged. This is not the Obama administration when it comes to standing up to the Iranian Ayatollah and his religious Nazi henchmen, and standing behind the people of Iran protesting for a better life. I don't know. I mean, I'm interested. The question is, if you're not putting boots on the ground, so what will that look like? What will you do militarily? What is the U.S. ready to do militarily? Because remember, presumably the regime feels that their survival is at risk. So if the idea is like, we're going to make the regime stop resisting the protesters, that's basically you're saying you're going to make the regime give up and remove themselves from power. Right? Because if you're the regime, you feel like the protesters, your power is at risk. So it's not a small thing for the regime to say, okay, we're going to let the protesters do whatever we want now. That's basically the regime saying we're going to be taken out of power. So what is the plan for some sort of what is the military strike that will make the regime, that will so impact the regime that they're going to stop fighting against the protesters? I don't know myself. Now, our viewer Oz Meow says, I don't see how the regime will fall when airstrikes happen. My point is just that it's a pretty big ask of the regime to get them to not resist the protesters anymore. Because at that point, the regime is basically not defending itself anymore. But maybe the idea of the strike is to really damage the regime so badly that it weakens their ability to resist the protesters or something. That sounds like a pretty significant strike, though. Ali Alien thinks the U.S. may not need to help. Devil Doc thinks the regime in one way or another is finished. One of our viewers thinks they could hit the barracks of all the soldiers, troops where they are stationed. That would cripple them. That's what BMX Kane says. If you're Iran, though, and the United States and Trump are threatening to launch strikes, are you gonna keep all of your soldiers in certain barracks where the U.S. knows that they stay? Maybe they would. I would think the regime would do things to prevent the effectiveness of airstrikes, given that they know they might come. Bluff 1N is talking about them targeting heads of state. Doug Cahill says, I think they will try to get a group of Iranian soldiers to take up the revolutionary cause. They could be heavily supported by U.S. Maybe there's special U.S. and Israeli forces on the ground right now in Iran. Who knows? All right, let's get to this. I've been telling you we're going to get to this. I want to get to the Institute for the Study of War. They post really interesting stuff. The Institute for the Study of War is a website that does analysis of military conflicts around the world. It's at understandingwar.org. One conflict they have been covering lately is the Iran situation. I'm going to post a link to this article in case you want to read it and then go to their website. It's a very good site. Hey, thanks to Gary Fry 95, by the way, and Tuba Moore. Tuba Moore says, I'm using the right flag for the Iranian people. Yet the flag in the thumbnail is again, it's just, I put it in there because it's a flag used by a bunch of the Iranian opposition. And it has to do with the news story. It is the lion and sun flag, formerly used before the Iranian Revolution. So that's why it's there. It just, again, it's something that goes along with the story. It's not telling you what to think. Oh, Firestar thus says, oil is leaving Venezuela and President Trump isn't controlling Venezuela. Recently, USA released a warning for USA citizens to leave Venezuela. Maybe I don't want to, I reposted that warning. I don't want to get off on that tangent right now. But thank you, Firestar. Maybe we can talk about that a little later. I really appreciate that. Firestar. Okay. Let's go to this. Let's see what the Institute for the Study of War has to say about the situation. Iran update today. They are now publishing daily Iran updates. Key takeaways from the Institute for the Study of War. 1. Intensification of the Iranian regime's crackdown on protests. The Iranian regime has shifted from labeling protesters as rioters to describing them as terrorists, which signals that the regime has taken an uncompromising stance toward the ongoing protests. The regime will likely use its characterization of protesters as terrorists to justify further cracking down on the protests. The regime has killed hundreds of protesters, the Institute for the Study of War believes, and injured hundreds more in its violent crackdown on the protests. 2. Protests in Iran. Protest activity has continued to take place across Iran amid the Iranian regime's continued nationwide internet shutdown and phone shutdown, reportedly. We have recorded 60 protests across 15 provinces since midnight local time on January 10th, 25 of which were medium-sized and 8 of which were large. By the way, there are 31 provinces in Iran. 3. U.S. policy in Iran U.S. officials told the Wall Street Journal on January 10th that U.S. officials have held preliminary discussions about taking military action against the Iranian regime. The officials stated there is no sign of an imminent attack on Iran, however. By the way, thanks to Buddy Love, and thanks for shouting out the mods, Buddy Love. Thanks, it's Miss Jem for being a member, and Yakabu 5000. Now, by the way, just because reporting says that it's not imminent, that doesn't mean it's not imminent. You know, the Trump administration has sometimes acted like for example, when they attacked the nuclear facilities in Iran, they did not act like that was about to happen, and then it did happen. So who knows? Pre-breakfast banana thinks it's game over new Iran. Our viewer May 3 AM Life says those attacking Reza Pahlavi in mainstream media are repeating Iranian Revolutionary Guard propaganda. For many Iranians, he represents the only real path forward. Let's read a little more from this, from the Institute for the Study of War. Again, I'll post a link to this article in the chat so you can read it yourself. They say the Iranian regime has shifted from labeling protesters as rioters to describing them as terrorists, which signals that the regime has taken an uncompromising stance toward the ongoing protests. The regime will likely use its characterization of protesters as terrorists to justify further cracking down on the protests. I'm not going to read all of this, but let's see. The terrorist label, they say, portrays protesters as an existential security threat that warrants a forceful and violent response. The regime has explicitly signaled its willingness to use lethal force to suppress protests. Amar headquarters Central Council member Hossein Yetka, who is close to the Iranian supreme leader and his son, called on besieged members and regime supporters to mobilize and warned Iranians not to complain if shots are fired or something happens to someone. The regime is increasingly approaching the protests as a military issue rather than a law enforcement or crowd control issue, says the ISW. The Artesh, which is Iran's conventional military, issued a statement today in which the military vowed to protect national interest, strategic infrastructure, and public property. The statement, similar to senior regime officials and state media, framed the protest as a plot by Iran's adversaries, namely the U.S. and Israel, to disrupt public security. That is language, we were covering this like a week ago, and we saw that kind of language in state media. It is notable that the conventional military now in Iran has indicated that it could get involved in the protests, given that it has historically played a limited role in suppressing domestic unrest. It is unclear what role the conventional military would play in the regime's crackdown on the protests, and whether their personnel would demonstrate the same willingness to repress protesters as more ideological security institutions, such as the Revolutionary Guard and the Basij. Interesting. We assessed on January 8th that the regime has taken the rare step of using the Revolutionary Guard ground forces to suppress protests because the regime has likely determined that these protests represent a dire security threat to the regime. Also, the Institute for the Study of War says, there are further indications that the ongoing protests are challenging the ability and willingness of Iranian security forces to crack down on the protests. You know, some of you have brought up the idea of, could we see a situation where the security forces refuse to fire on the protesters? That would certainly be a problem for the regime. The Revolutionary Guard Intelligence Organization released a statement today that it is dealing with possible acts of abandonment. This statement suggests that some Iranian security forces may have already defected, or that the regime is very concerned about this possibility. A law enforcement command officer from an unspecified Kurdish majority city told Time on January 7th that all the officers at his station believe the regime is collapsing. The officer added he does what he does for money, not to kill people. The regime may have started to frame protesters as terrorists to increase security forces' willingness to use lethal force against protesters and reduce the risk of defections. The regime's potential deployment of the conventional military would further indicate that protests are challenging security forces' ability and willingness to repress the unrest. The conventional military is generally less ideological and more representative of the Iranian population than the Revolutionary Guard, which increases the risk that the conventional military members could defect. The deployment of the conventional military, which is not trained to control civil unrest, would also indicate Iranian security forces may face bandwidth constraints, given that the regime would likely not deploy the conventional military unless it absolutely had to. Interesting. The Institute for the Study of War also reports that protest activity has continued to take place across Iran amid the Iranian regime's continued nationwide internet shutdown. Now, they say they recorded a decrease in the rate of protests today from yesterday. The decrease in the recorded protest activity is at least partly due to the Iranian regime's nationwide internet shutdown that has been in effect for over 48 hours, which makes it harder to get data about the protests. Protesters have continued to reportedly use Starlink, which is a satellite-based internet service, to send reports of protests to foreign media. This is a map here of protest activity that they have recorded since midnight on January 10th. They say the regime's internet shutdown has been in effect for over 48 hours. Therefore, our protest data thus likely only reflects part of the protest activity. They also have a map of protest activity in Tehran City. They're posting daily updates about Iran on Institute for Study of War. I'm going to post a link to this article in the chat. You can find it at understandingwar.org. It's a great site to follow for Iran and other updates. See if anything else I want to mention in this report. Okay, they believe, the Institute for the Study of War, they believe that the regime has killed hundreds of protesters and injured hundreds more in its violent crackdown on the protests. Now remember, President Trump did say that if the regime started killing protesters, the U.S. would get involved, he suggested militarily. So a lot of reports say that they have killed protesters. I mentioned this, this was different. A Tehran-based doctor told Time on January 9th that 6 hospitals in Tehran have recorded at least 217 protester deaths since January 8th. I don't know if that fact is true, if that many deaths have actually happened. Local Iranian sources in Tehran told anti-regime media today that a large number of protesters had been shot and killed by Iranian security forces in Tehran in the last couple days. Several Iranian medical professionals told Western media yesterday and today that Iranian hospitals are overwhelmed with casualties from the protests. A doctor told the BBC yesterday that Farabi Hospital in Tehran is in crisis mode due to the number of wounded protesters. A doctor told Reuters today that large numbers of injured protesters have been brought to hospitals in northwestern Iran since yesterday with head injuries, broken limbs, deep cuts, and gunshot wounds. Unspecified sources told anti-regime media on Thursday that Iranian security agencies have threatened doctors and instructed them to not treat injured protesters in an effort to prevent information about protest-related injuries from leaving hospitals, citing unspecified sources. Iranian security agencies told doctors to report any injured protesters who sought treatment to the security agencies immediately, a report says. Unspecified observers reported that Iranian security forces have begun to forcibly remove protesters from medical facilities. Again, I can't confirm that report. Last thing in this article, very good article. They do a nice job. They give their own analysis, but they also gather up recent reports. So it's a good site to keep an eye on, understandingwar.org, Institute for the Study of War. We mentioned this before, but just to say it again, U.S. officials told the Wall Street Journal today that U.S. officials have had preliminary discussions about taking military action against the Iranian regime. The officials stated there is no sign of an imminent attack on Iran, however. President Trump warned Iranian leadership on the 9th that the United States will get involved if the regime fires at protesters. Trump had a similar social media statement today, saying the U.S. is ready to help Iranian protesters achieve freedom. A U.S. official told the Wall Street Journal today that the Trump administration has discussed launching airstrikes targeting unspecified Iranian military sites to follow through on Trump's repeated warnings to the regime. Another U.S. official said there is no consensus, no agreement on what military action to take. The U.S. officials added that the U.S. has not moved any equipment or personnel to prepare for military action and that there is no sign of an imminent attack on Iran. I mentioned to you earlier that the New York Times tonight is reporting that President Trump has been briefed in recent days on new options for military strikes on Iran. They say that Trump has not been made a final decision. The Times says that Trump is seriously considering authorizing a strike in response to the Iranian regime's crackdown on the demonstrators. And they say that President Trump has been presented with a range of options, including strikes on non-military sites in Tehran, whatever that might be. Let me take some comments from you guys. But again, that's a great article from Institute for the Study of War. I will put the link in the chat. Let me take some. What do you guys think? I'm going to read some comments now. Posami says it's not like they will reveal their secret plan. One of our viewers mentioned crime expert, the Pentagon Pizza Index. So 2 hours ago, Pentagon Pizza Report said various pizzerias nearby the Pentagon are reporting above average traffic. This account at Penn Pizza Report looks at the pizza shops near the Pentagon as a possible sign that maybe there's some military activity happening because lots of people are ordering pizza at the Pentagon. Let's see here. Our viewer, Sepher MB, says there were protests by Iranians in Toronto today. J. Adams Vid says the regime in Iran is holding back Iran. Thanks, Don Co, for watching over there on Twitch. Sandy Doggo says anything so they can invade another country. Oh, people mentioned Starlink jamming. This article talks about that. I want to mention that. Talk a little about Starlink. Let me just check a couple more comments here. Also check for updates. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. A new video posted by, I will post a link to this video, Shayan Sardarizadeh, who has been posting verified videos. He's with BBC Verified. He said this is from Tehran. Protesters chant slogans demanding the end of clerical rule. If you want to watch that video, I'll post a link to it in the chat right now. I just did. You can follow him for more videos at Cheyenne86. There's a video I've seen circulating that supposedly shows Iranians in body bags at some sort of holding facility. And I cannot confirm it, but it supposedly shows protesters who've been killed in body bags. And actually a couple different videos. I can't show that. I'll post a link to a couple of those videos. I just posted them. I just posted it there in the chat. But the idea is that people are going to look at the body bags to identify their killed relatives. Several people have said, look at Ted Cruz's post. What post are you talking about by Ted Cruz? Which one in particular? He reposted a video that I believe shows supposedly that a flag at Iran's embassy was replaced. Is that the one you're talking about? Or is it a different one? It wasn't clear to me which one you were talking about. Fox News said that a protester scaled the balcony of Iran's embassy in London and tore down the Iranian flag and replaced it with the pre-1979 Lion and Sun flag. That was a protester who climbed up the front of the embassy, and the police responded and made 2 arrests in that incident. That was from Fox News. The Ted Cruz about the 72 virgins, Ted Cruz said, if the Iranian people overthrow the Ayatollah, America and the entire world will be much, much safer. May the Death to America crowd meet their 72 virgins tonight. Yeah, I don't think Ted Cruz has some sort of secret knowledge of military action. If that's why you're telling me to look at it, I don't think Ted Cruz is revealing some military plan tonight to attack. I don't think Ted Cruz would want to put American troops at risk just so he could make a joke get a laugh on social media. So my assumption is that is not based on any kind of secret Ted Cruz knowledge of military plans, if that's what you're suggesting. So I'm not gonna read that and assume that the odds have greatly increased of a military strike tonight. By the way, it's not. I don't even think it's nighttime there anymore. It's almost 7 a.m. Iran time. Hey, thanks to Carly Greenfield. Thanks, Carly, for your support. Carly Greenfield. Also, Turned Up Trav on Twitch. Thank you. Thanks to Ken Lance for your support. Thanks to Sammy G. Thanks to, hold on a second here, all of our moderators. We have Ruth. Thank you, Ruth, for moderating. On Twitch, Cerrero, David Green, Idaho Star, Sarah, and Surly Dev. Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Facebook, Linda Belglary, and Misha on X. Also, shout out to Marie Goodson Hamilton. Oh, Paul Anderson's moderating too. Thanks, Paul. Marie Goodson Hamilton, thanks for being a subscriber on Facebook. Hey, thanks, Margaret Riley, for the Facebook stars. And thanks to Bruce Hodge for the Facebook stars and subscribing on Facebook. Bruce says, go Iranians. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate that, Bruce. We're going to talk about Starlink in a second. Susan Priest Buchner, thanks for being a subscriber. And thanks to Susan for the Facebook stars. Damon Collins, our viewer, says Venezuela will never be Iraq 2.0, but Iran has the chance of being Iraq 3.0 if we're not careful. I'm not sure the protesters won't still chant death to America, says Damon. Thanks to our Twitch subscribers, too, like Manchester's Red Forever, Ascension Cannabis, DeGeorge85, Gina Pina, Wall Street Shaggy, Atomic Farting, Reese Black, Distant Galaxy, thanks Thundering Mantis for watching. Thanks to more of our subscribers over there, like Douthis, Gonzalez, and let's see here. Wet in Your, thank you for being a subscriber, and Tatermont. And also, hey, thanks to Ralph Holzer. Ralph Holzer, if I'm pronouncing it. Is it Rafe or Ralph? Ralph Holzer, I'll say. Thank you so much for your support. Let's talk about, I want to mention Starlink. Okay, this article talks about Starlink here. Where is it? Where is it? I had it right here. As protests rage, Iran pulls the plug on contact with the world. Oh, hold on one moment here. Give me one moment. Yeah, BBC has some reporting too I wanted to mention too. We haven't talked about that yet. We'll talk about it. All right, let's talk about this. Oh, hey, by the way, Mitchell Pilot, that is so generous of you. That is so generous of you. Thank you so much, Mitchell Pilot, for your support, all your support of the channel. Really nice of you, Mitchell Pilot, 909. That's very kind of Mitchell Pilot. Okay. So AP has an article where they talk about the communications blackout. They say just after 8 p.m. on Thursday, Iran's theocracy pulled the plug and disconnected the 85 million people in Iran from the rest of the world. Following a playbook used in both demonstrations and in war, Iran severed the internet connections and telephone lines that connect its people to the vast diaspora in the United States, the Iranian people who live around the world. Thursday's decision sharply limits people from sharing images and witness accounts of the nationwide protests and also of any kind of crackdown on the protests. It could provide cover for a violent crackdown. As the country effectively goes dark, also it prevents people from organizing with each other there. As the country effectively goes dark, loved ones abroad are frantic for any scrap of news, especially as Iran's Attorney General warned today that anyone taking part in protests will be considered an enemy of God, a death penalty charge. A cybersecurity expert in Toronto who opposes Iran's government said, "You can't understand our feelings. My brothers, my cousins, they will go on the street. You can't imagine the anxiety of the Iranian diaspora, people who are from Iran but live outside of it now. I couldn't work yesterday," he said. "I had meetings, but I postponed them because I couldn't focus. I was thinking of my family and friends." Oh, it's a she, I'm sorry. Her voice cracked. Her voice cracked as she added, "A lot of people are being killed and injured by the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we don't even know who. We don't know who. Even Starlink is being jammed, likely." This is the third time Iran has shut down the internet from the outside world. The first was in 2019 when demonstrators angry about a spike in government-subsidized gasoline prices took to the streets. Over 300 people reportedly were killed. Then came the protests over the 2022 death of Mahsa Amini, following her arrest by the country's morality police over allegedly not wearing her hijab or headscarf to the liking of authorities. A months-long crackdown killed more than 500 people. While the connectivity offered by Starlink played a role in the Amini demonstrations, the deployment of its receivers is now far greater in Iran. That's despite the government never authorizing Starlink to function, making the service illegal to possess in Iran and use. A year ago, an Iranian official estimated tens of thousands of Starlink receivers are in Iran, a figure that LA-based internet freedom activist Mehdi Yayanejad said sounded right. While many receivers are likely in the hands of business people and others wanting to stay in touch with the outside world for their livelihoods, Yayanejad said some are now being used to share videos, photos, and other reporting on the protests. In this case, because all those things have been disrupted, Starlink is playing the key for getting these videos out, said Yayanejad. However, Starlink receivers are facing challenges. Since its 12-day war with Israel last June, Iran has been disrupting GPS signals, likely in a bid to make drones less effective. Starlink receivers use GPS signals to position themselves to connect to a constellation of low-orbit satellites. An expert on Iran, Amir Rashidi, director of digital rights and security at the Mian Group and an expert on Iran, said since Thursday he had seen about a 30% loss in packets being sent by Starlink devices, basically units of data that transmit across the internet. In some areas of Iran, he said there had been a loss of 80% in packets. "I believe that the Iranian government is doing something beyond GPS jamming," he said, like in Ukraine where Russia tried to jam Starlink. He suggested Iran may be using a mobile jammer, like it did in previous decades to disrupt satellite television receivers. Interesting. Meanwhile, Iran has been advocating at the ITU for Starlink service to the country to be stopped. This is also interesting. AP says it appears that the majority of information coming out of Iran since Thursday, when the internet was turned off, is being transmitted via Starlink, which is now illegal there. That carries danger for those possessing the devices. Who is this person? They said, this cybersecurity expert said it is really hard to use it because if they arrest a person, they can execute the person and say this person is working for Israel or the United States. Not using it, however, means the world knows even less about what's happening inside Iran at a pivotal moment. He said this is a she, I believe. She said this sort of nonviolent protest is not sustainable when the violence by security forces is so extreme. Unless something changes in the next 2 or 3 days, these protests can die down too. If there's any help, it needs to come soon, she said. She's a cybersecurity expert, Iranian, but she's in Toronto. Anyways, very interesting article. But it says that an expert they talked to said, I believe, AP said, it appears the majority of information coming out of Iran since they shut off the internet on Thursday night is being transmitted via Starlink, which is now illegal there. Wow. Now, the doorway Uke says Starlink is hacking back. I thought I read something today claiming that Starlink, the signal had gotten better recently. Let me see if I can find anything about that. Anything? I see some unconfirmed stuff on the internet about it. But I'm not sure. So again, AP says that it seems that Iran is trying to jam Starlink. Hillary says Starlink and Musk amazing. Reese Black says you can be executed for using Starlink in Iran. That's what the article suggested. Look, I'm not surprised by that. Given that the government shut down the internet, it would not surprise me that if they found you sending out internet to the outside world, using Starlink to send out things about the protests to the outside world, I would certainly, from what I know about Iran, I would certainly not be surprised if they seriously punished you or killed you for that. It doesn't seem crazy to me. There's lots of unclaimed. I mean, during the last couple of weeks, this has gone on a lot. You have lots of people claiming things online and these rumors. A lot of rumors flying around. A lot of things that have turned out to be false. So I'm not just passing along every rumor I see. The BBC reported today that staff at 3 hospitals in Iran have told them that their facilities are overwhelmed with dead or injured patients. Two medical workers told BBC they treated gunshot wounds from both live ammunition and pellets. A doctor at an eye hospital in the capital said they had gone, a doctor said an eye hospital in Tehran had gone into crisis mode. Also, BBC said that BBC Persian verified that 70 bodies were brought to a hospital in Rasht City on Friday night. But they also said BBC and most other international organizations, news organizations, are unable to report from inside Iran. And with the country's near total internet blackout, that makes obtaining and verifying information difficult. One hospital worker in Tehran said there were very horrible scenes at the hospital, claimed around 38 people died. Said there wasn't enough space in the morgue. Said many of them were 20 to 25 years old. BBC also obtained a report from a medic in Shiraz on Thursday who claimed that large numbers of injured were being brought into the hospital and there were not enough surgeons there to cope with the influx. So again, that is reporting from BBC about different cities where they say they're hearing reports of many people killed and injured the last several days in these protests. I can't personally verify these, but there are lots of reports like this. Paul Cosgrove thinks we live in a time where it's difficult for them to keep what's going on anywhere in the world from the public eye. Mark F. says, how are the authorities communicating with each other? I wonder if they have their own, set up their own ways of doing it. I don't know. It's a good question. I would also think that if you shut down the internet, that's a huge problem for the economy there. Reportedly, we were reading an article yesterday saying that many of the stores in Iran are closed. It was really interesting. Hang on a second here. I'm trying to find it. Is it here? I think it's here. By the way, in this article from the Washington Post that came out today, you can see here it says, the Center for Human Rights in Iran said, the internet and communication shutdown is extremely alarming. The regime typically does this as a preface to the mass slaughter of protesters. Center for Human Rights in Iran said it had received credible first-hand reports of hospitals in Tehran, Mashhad, and Karaj filled with injured protesters. Radio Farda published audio from someone it said was an eyewitness to protests in Kerman province, saying he had heard hundreds of instances of gunfire Friday night. So where is this going? It is now the 5th. It is now the 11th. It is January 11th in Iran right now. The protests are entering their 3rd week, day 15 of the protests. What is going to happen? I also don't know how long they can just go on for like this. I mean, at a certain point, from what I understand, a lot of the economy is shut down. So how long can they stay like this for? Does something have to happen one way or the other? The Wall Street Journal reports that Iran's intelligence ministry sent text messages to Iranians calling on them to spy on protests and asking parents to stop their children from joining. RW says, I am having trouble finding decent information on the protests. Retina Plays thinks you will never see the full numbers of killed. It's way beyond what you guys think. We probably should talk some more about the Reza Pahlavi. I've been meaning to talk more about him. Give you a little background on him. Iran's exiled crown prince rises as a figure in protests decades after leaving his homeland. Our viewer El Halanin says it is 7:20 a.m. in Tehran right now. Thanks, by the way, to Winnie Mochi for subscribing on Twitch. Thanks, TBA Listen Here, for watching. Let me also check and see if I have any updates for you. I should also show you the Supreme Leader's account on X. Where is his account? Right here. This is it, right? Where's the Khamenei account on X? Khamenei. Here, I found it. The most recent post by the Supreme Leader on X. Now, by the way, I believe X is banned in Iran normally. Now, and also the internet is shut down in Iran normally, but the Supreme Leader is still posting on X. On January 9th, on Friday, the Supreme Leader posted, God willing, God will bring the feeling of victory to the hearts of all the Iranian people very soon. There is a reader context note attached on X that says, the Supreme Leader writes this tweet while Iran's internet and phone lines are completely shut down. He also posted yesterday, "Our enemies don't know Iran. In the past, the U.S. failed due to their flawed planning. Today, too, their flawed scheming will cause them to fail." He also posted, "Today, like the past, the U.S. is wrong in its calculations about Iran." He also posted, "The Iranian people will not tolerate the hirelings of foreign powers." This is all from yesterday, from Friday. He also posted, "All should know that the Islamic Republic..." Oh, I think this is his speech from yesterday. You know what? What happened is, I think this account, he gave a speech yesterday, and I think this is his. Because I remember we read this. Like, some of it was, "The U.S. president has said if the Iranian government does such and such, I'll take the side of the rioters. The rioters have put their hopes in him. If he's so capable, he should manage his own country." A lot of his speech talked about Trump. "All should know that the Islamic Republic of Iran that was established with the sacrifice of several 100,000 honorable people won't back down in the face of those causing destruction." In the 12-day war, where the U.S. helped Israel against Iran, says Supreme Leader, "more than 1,000 of our country's citizens were martyred. The U.S. president said he ordered this. So he confessed that Iranians' blood was on his hands. Now he's saying he's on the side of the Iranian nation," says the Supreme Leader. He also said on Friday, "Last night in Tehran and some other cities, a bunch of people bent on destruction came and destroyed buildings that belonged to their own country in order to please the President of the United States and make him happy." He said, "You can see how the U.S. has besieged a country in Latin America and taken some actions there. They aren't even ashamed and explicitly state that this was for oil." For oil! They say they've done this for oil. Hashtag Venezuela. Look, the Supreme Leader posted hashtag Venezuela. He also said the U.S. president, who judges arrogantly about the whole world, should know that tyrants and arrogant rulers of the world, such as Pharaoh Nimrod, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, and other rulers, saw their downfall when they were at the peak of their hubris. He too will fall. The speech was very focused on Trump. TC thinks he sounds worried. This is really his account. 2 million followers. Khamenei.ir. See? It's a real account. Anyways, that was his speech yesterday. I didn't realize it was posted on his account. Redox thinks he ain't lying. John Adams says the people will be free again very soon. James Watt thinks Khamenei is very wrong. Detroit Dan says Starlink is technically illegal in Iran. Yeah, that's what the article said. But it said that there's thousands of receivers there, but that people risk getting themselves killed if they use it now. Hey, thanks, Who Shot JR on Twitch. I appreciate it. What was I going to mention to you? I was just going to show you something. Oh, I wanted to talk about, because we've talked about his son, but I wanted to give you a little background on the son of the Shah, Reza Pahlavi. So he has been encouraging the protesters. Seems like his name is one many protesters are saying. There's a question of how much people are behind him there, but he is someone that people have been rallying around. You can see here, Iran's exiled crown prince rises as a figure in protests decades after leaving his homeland. He is the son of the Shah of Iran. The Shah was a monarch. He was the last ruler before the Iranian Revolution. He has been in exile for nearly 50 years, says AP. His father, Iran Shah, was so widely hated that millions took to the streets in 1979, forcing him from power. Nevertheless, he is trying to position himself as a player in his country's future. He successfully spurred protesters onto the streets Thursday night in a massive escalation of the protests. What is unknown is how much real support the 65-year-old Pahlavi, who is in exile in the U.S., has in his homeland. Do protesters want a return of the peacock throne as his father's reign was known? Or are the protesters just looking for anything that is not Iran's Shiite theocracy? Pahlavi issued calls rebroadcast by Farsi-language satellite news channels and websites abroad for Iranians to return to the streets Friday night. He has also called for them to be there Saturday and Sunday. We read his new one tonight where he said he wanted people to go out and protest on Sunday. He has called also for demonstrators to prepare to take and hold city centers. He has also called for a nationwide strike in key industries. His profile rose again during President Trump's first term. Still, Trump and other world leaders have been hesitant to embrace him, given the many cautionary tales in the Middle East and elsewhere of Western governments putting their faith in exiles long estranged from their homelands. Anyways, I don't want to read the whole article, but circles of die-hard Iranian monarchists. Remember, it was a monarchy, so it was like a leader, a monarch, and that leadership was passed down through heredity, through family members. Circles of die-hard Iranian monarchists in exile have long touted dreams of the Pahlavi dynasty returning to power, but Pahlavi has been hampered in gaining wider appeal by a number of factors. Bitter memories of his father's rule, the perception that he and his family are out of touch with their homeland, and repression inside Iran that aims to silence any opposition sentiment. He has sought to have a voice through social media videos and Farsi language news channels, such as Iran International, have highlighted his calls for protests. In recent years, he has raised the idea of a constitutional monarchy, perhaps with an elected rather than hereditary leader. But he has said it's up to Iranians to choose. I mean, you can have a monarchy where the monarch isn't running everything. I think of like the UK, for example. Pre-breakfast banana says, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, won't get fooled again. Brian thinks, our viewer, the Iranian people hate the West. They just hate their government more now. Don't confuse them with the Venezuelans. That's what Brian thinks. James Watt says the new Shah needs to assume a purely symbolic role in Iran. Lonely Lego says calling for many things from his safe place. Our viewer, Beers Your Friend, says, I don't trust him. I'm going to ask, we're going to do a poll, and I'm going to ask the question I asked last night, and I'll see what you guys think about it. The question is, will the regime fall due to these protests? That is the question. Will the regime in Iran fall due to these protests? What do you think? Yes or no? I'm going to post it right now. There is the YouTube vote right there. Big Bear says, who thinks the Ayatollah will flee the country? I think we still have a disagreement. YouTube, 59% say the regime will fall due to these protests. However, on Twitch, 56% say no. Michael Van says, our viewer, propaganda is out of control. Media is on board. It's all about regime change in Iran. Zentex thinks every revolution needs a leader, and Reza Pahlavi is the only person currently leading this. Taylor Ping says that's a no from me. Our viewer Bakazina says, I hope so, but I don't believe it. So it's about split on Twitch and YouTube 60-40. Amanda B says it's a revolution. They will not back down until it's done. Kit Johns thinks only if the U.S. forces a coup. Logic Wing says the security forces must fall before the regime. No, Iran does not have nuclear weapons, Panther Lily. Kylor thinks multiple cities have already fallen. I have not heard any report that I would consider reliable from any remotely reliable source that says that cities have fallen. Watchman for Christ says the regime will only fall after protests and strikes combined. Thank you for voting in our poll. All right, let me just see if I have any more updates for you here. Our viewer Sloth says it looks like they are preparing the civilians for strikes. Oh, you're talking about this? We read this before, what Reza Pahlavi told people about, saying, go out there on Sunday at 6 p.m. in protests, go along the main streets in groups, don't separate from one another, do not take side streets that can endanger your lives. I didn't read that as like you're going to get hit by airstrikes. I read that as like stay in groups so that you don't get attacked by security forces. That's how I was reading that. Don't go off on your own down some side street where some security forces might corner you or something. Stay in big groups. That's how I took that, at least. He also said, do not abandon the streets. I mean, but like, so the question here is, so how does this play out? If people just keep going out there every day, that's not really, so it's not really sustainable to have, from what I understand, a lot of the economy is shut down. So long term, it's not going to be sustainable to have people have a lot of the economy just shut down. That's one thing. But, you know, if we have heard about some stuff getting destroyed, like buildings getting set on fire and stuff. I haven't seen evidence that it's like a lot of the country. So, I mean, you know, something's got, if the regime is going to fall, something's got to make it fall. If a bunch of people go out to the street for 2 more weeks, is that going to make the regime fall? I mean, just the fact that people are there on the street itself doesn't mean the regime has to say we're not in power anymore. So, you know, one thing I had seen is like the question of will you see defections, high-level defections of people high up in the regime, in the military, in politics or something, defect. That's one sign you could see. You know, I'm not saying this will happen, but sometimes if protesters become more violent, that can make things change. So, but, you know, my point is that like something's got to develop or not. But the bare fact that lots of people are in the street does not make it necessary that the regime steps down. If the regime, say, fears for their lives because of people in the street, well, that's different. Bradley Block thinks the regime will only fall with USA help. Now, Malady of Death says, what if this goes on for months? I don't know that it can. It's a great question. I don't know enough about it. But again, a question I would have is, I mean, if people, I mean, now look, remember yesterday Reza Pahlavi called for a general strike. He called for key industries to people to not go to work. That would be something which puts more pressure on the regime. So as you know, if you look at yesterday, he said, I invite workers and employees in key sectors of the economy, especially transportation, oil, gas, and energy, to begin the nationwide strike. So you can imagine a world in which the economy is so shut down that it forces the issue. Spicy Road says the police and army could switch loyalty. Sentient Cannabis thinks that throwing rocks ain't going to get it done, and people in the street, if I'm reading you right, says ain't going to get it done until the people find a way to turn arms against their oppressors. But also, again, you know, if there's some sort of strike which destroys the economy, that could certainly change things. But I'm just trying to get the point across that when you think about how this is playing out, again, just the fact that lots of people are standing in the street doesn't mean that the regime has to step down. Something has to convince them that, you know, I'm afraid for my life. They're going to kill me if I don't step down. Or I've lost all the support of the security forces, so no one's protecting me anymore. Or, you know, you see what I'm saying? Just the fact that lots of people are standing there on the street doesn't necessarily make you think if you're in the leadership you need to step down. Another possibility is, does some element of the leadership, you know, try to hold on to power and say, does some of the leadership try to get rid of the leader, right? You know, they say we, you know, it's like I don't know if you call it a coup or whatever you call it, but some of the leadership says, we've removed the supreme leader from power and we're now in charge and things are going to be better. And they do that to try to stay in power, but try to calm down the protesters because they say, see, we got rid of the supreme leader. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying these are the kinds of things that can happen. PH says they're taking over government facilities and buildings. I have not heard widespread reports of that. Brian says it's a religious dictatorship. No one is going to step down. One article I read said that the supreme leader might, though his mindset might be that like he would never step down. He'd rather just be a martyr if need be. Yeah, The Economist had an article about this week, and it said the supreme leader shows no inclination to step aside or flee to Moscow or something. And an acquaintance of the supreme leader said, according to The Economist, he belongs to a revolutionary generation. For them, the best death is martyrdom. He would rather fight than resign. The Economist says some wonder how long the Supreme Leader's security apparatuses will continue to obey orders and prioritize his security over their own. Oh, I also read an interesting article today I think it was in Foreign Policy, if I have that right, and something that article was arguing. I'll give you the name of the article. It basically was saying that a lot of the like middle class business people were joining the protests, but like the really high up business people had not, and that they didn't like the idea of disorder in the country, and would they end up switching? Let's see here. Can I pull this up here? Hang on. I'll tell you the name of the article. I just need 2 seconds here. I need 2 seconds here. But I thought it was interesting. I hadn't seen that perspective before. If I can find it here. Can I find it? Yes. It was an article in Foreign Policy called Iran's Currency Crisis Could Be the Regime's Downfall. They said the most important sectors of the bazaar, which is merchant business community, the most important sectors have not joined the protests and are waiting to see which side gets the upper hand. These more wealthy business people, more wealthy merchants, have a lot to lose if the regime collapses. Anyway, so that was interesting too, I thought. Okay, we'll read a few more comments here. Granite Man says refineries will be taken out to stop killings. That's what Granite Man thinks. That the U.S. will attack their oil. That'd be a big deal. Thanks also to Holden 2Dix859. Oh no! He made me say a naughty. I said a naughty. It's probably been a couple months since I did that. Thanks anyway, though. You got me. You got me. Too bad. Thank you also to Genema Live, Who Shot JR. I was just checking to see if there were any more updates here. I'm looking through some of the things people have sent me too. I don't know, a couple of viewers sent me this thing like Dragon Hunter, and some others sent me this video that supposedly showed part of this important statue being taken down several days ago in Iran. I don't really know what this is. So I don't know if that's legit or not. Maybe you guys know. Is it the Soleimani statue? I got it. Soleimani statue got taken down? Yeah, some of our viewers are saying the Soleimani statue. I was trying to find just like a picture I could show you of it. No, but that wasn't it. But it wasn't. It wasn't like a it's not. Maybe that statue has been taken. It was the video I've been sent. It's not it doesn't look like a person. It's like some framework structure, like a flower almost, or a globe. I don't know what it is, so I cannot confirm it. But some viewers sent it to me. This was like a couple days ago. I don't know. Anyways, all right. Let me just see if I have any other updates here. Yeah, basically like every day recently I've been looking at these protests and saying like, what will happen? I mean, people go out. The last few days, we've had lots of people going out to protests. And we started the last few days definitely hearing about accounts of people getting killed at the protests. But where does it go the next few days? Is it the same as today, or are we going to start seeing some kind of big shift somehow? In this article yesterday from Reuters, it says, no easy way out for Iran's supreme leader. Vatanka from the Washington-based Middle East Institute said the Iranian clerical system had survived repeated protest cycles by repression and tactical concessions, but the strategy was reaching its limits. Change now looks inevitable. Regime collapse is possible but not guaranteed, he said. In other countries in the region, such as Syria, Libya, and Iraq, longtime leaders only fell after a combination of protests and military intervention. President Trump has said he might come to the aid of Iranian protesters if security forces fire on them, but he said it's not going to be boots on the ground. The former Iranian official said there is no easy way out for the 86-year-old supreme leader, whose decades-old policies of building proxy forces, evading sanctions, and advancing nuclear and missile programs appear to be unraveling. Inside Iran, opinions are divided on whether foreign military intervention is imminent or possible, and even firm government critics question whether it's desirable. The New York Times said two videos reviewed by them showed what appeared to be dozens of bodies shrouded in black sheets or bags at a forensic clinic in a district south of Tehran. I mentioned those videos of people supposedly identifying their relatives. It was unclear if those bodies resulted from violence at the protests on Friday night. I'll post a link again. I can't show those videos on the air, but I'll post a link to them again in the chat. But viewer discretion is advised. All right. Guys, I think I have gone over what I can go over. We kind of covered the updates on this. And talked about a bunch of different stuff. But for right now, I think, we have a natural length of the stream. I feel like we've reached it. So what I'm going to do is I will keep an eye on everything. And if there's big developments tonight or tomorrow or whenever, we can come back on the air and cover it again, or we can cover other stories as they develop. But if you missed it, go back and rewind and watch. You can see the different stuff we talked about. But try to get you updated on everything. But again, last few days, big protests, but also reports of a crackdown and a number of people killed and injured. And we just have to see where this goes. And some reports that Trump is considering some sort of military strike on Iran. So we will keep you advised. I really appreciate you joining our stream, and special shout out to everybody who's been sending me messages and letting me read your comments and posting in the chat and asking questions. Sorry I can't get to every comment. And yeah, if you want, subscribe, follow the channel. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda, agenda-free TV. And I would suggest turn on our notifications. We have a notification system where you can get sent a notification whenever we go live, and it's free to sign up. And that way, because I don't know when big news is going to happen, that way when big news happens and I jump on the air, you can not miss a stream and we're coming live. The mods will post a link to the notifications in the chat. You can find that link also in the description of this video on YouTube and Facebook. So sign up for our notifications. If there's huge news tonight, we'll come on the air, or tomorrow. I will post updates on my X account about this and other stories, @Lookner on X. You can follow me there, @Lookner. I really appreciate people tuning in and also, again, posting in the chat and everything. So thank you for joining us. Also, big shout out to our moderators. They are incredible. They're always here. They're the ones that let us have chat rooms. We couldn't have great that we have chats where people with different views can discuss stuff, but our moderators are the ones keeping it under control in there. So thank you so much to our moderators like Beth Mythical and Ruth over there on YouTube, and Leslie Ladyhawk. Thank you so much for moderating there. Our Twitch moderators, big shout out to you, Cerrero, Idaho Star, Sarah, and Surly Dev. Our Facebook moderators like Kay Lowry, Body, Margaret Riley, Paul Anderson, Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on X. Huge thanks to all of our mods. Huge thanks to everybody who donated. That's so nice of you guys. That is what allows the channel to exist, is your support. So big thanks. I think that did I thank everybody? You know what? I didn't thank William LeBrun. William, maybe we'll do that poll next time. Thank you, William LeBrun. Also, Matthew Stevenson. I got several questions. A number of people were complaining about calling this protests and saying I should call it a revolution. I got to confess, I don't really get the nature of the complaint. They are protests. They're widely reported as protests. That doesn't mean they can't be part of a revolution. protests can be part of a revolution. I just don't think it's incorrect to call them protests. And I mean, that's the common word used to cover them. So again, I've just seen this. I'm not picking on one person. Many people, I've gotten many comments like just tonight. I'd never seen it before. Tonight's the first time I started hearing this. So maybe you're reading something into the term that I'm not reading into it. But I don't really see the big issue with saying protest. I think that's the most appropriate word. Doesn't mean it can't be part of something else. Anyways, thank you to Matthew Stevenson 5544. I really appreciate it. Thank you also Sausage 419. I didn't thank Travwake for the memberships. Travwake, thank you for the memberships. Did I thank Sammy G for the membership? I hope. Hopefully I got everybody. I forget who I even thanked. Buddy Lev and Gary Fry. I think I thanked them before. Thanks. If you ever want to donate, you go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. I mean, I technically speaking, some people in the chat are saying revolutionary is more appropriate. Technically speaking, to me, revolution is less appropriate because a revolution would be something where I would think you'd have a regime change for a revolution. I mean, retrospectively after, if the protests end in 4 days with no regime change, I don't think it's widely going to be called a revolution. So just to talk about what's more appropriate, but again, the protest is the common word used to describe this. I'm sorry, I just don't see the big complaint about using that word. But a number of our viewers are upset about it. Anyways, I'm leaving it as protest. We can agree to disagree. Again, doesn't mean it can't be part of a revolution. Maybe it's going to turn out to be a revolution. We'll have to see. Hey, thanks for your support. Another good way to find out when we're live, if you're on X, is to follow us on X at Agenda Free TV. I post there before we go live. I post updates about the channel there at Agenda Free TV. And we do have a chat where you can chat with other viewers for free. Our Discord chat, check it out. It's the same link as the free notifications link. A bunch of our viewers like doing the Discord chat. Thanks so much to our Discord moderators for all your help on Discord, by the way. Hey, if you watch on YouTube, I would suggest turning on our YouTube notifications. And to get the YouTube notifications, which are helpful to find out when we're live on YouTube, what you need to do is subscribe to the channel, then click the bell and choose all notifications. If you're already subscribed, make sure you click the bell and choose all notifications. Okay. Hey, also shout out to our, hey, thanks to Anne Louie. Anne Louie, thanks for the Facebook star. It's very nice of you. Thanks, Anne. Thanks to all of our subscribers on Facebook, like Martha Crawford and Sharon Klassen Goslin, Robert Rial II, Chuck Mosca, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Tommy Sonin. Tommy says most Iranians are young and love the U.S. Thanks, Tommy. Sonin, our subscriber over there. Helen Anderson, our subscriber. Thank you. Sharon Klassen Goslin. I think I said that already, but that's fine. Louisa Knight, thanks for subscribing. All of our subscribers over on Facebook, thank you so much for supporting the channel. All of our other subscribers too. Also our Twitch subscribers, people like Wall Street and Shaggy. Let's see. Jax Animals, Amelian, CC, Bad Toastery, Susan CHF, DeGeorge 85, and Sentient Cannabis. Thank you. All of our Twitch subscribers. I'm Lucky, thank you. Hey, thanks to Super Stoiber, our new member. Thanks so much. And also our YouTube members. People like Sinful Clam, Soka Deb, Lex, Evelyn in Maine. I got to thank some YouTube members earlier next time. Try to do that next time. Sparky Pilot, Betsy's Tag, Callie Voltaire. Thanks, Callie. CAC813, Evelyn in Maine, Lex351, Tonya Bologna, Sweet Wing Studio, Zentex. Hey, thanks Collins Brian M for the gift membership. Thanks, Evelyn in Maine, for being a member. And Music Muse, Neo Trips. It's Becca Lily, Ty McFadden. Hey, New Girl, Vibrating Floor. Thanks to all of our other members too. Zeppelin, Tone, Sparky Pilot. Marcel Kern is here. Hey, Marcel, thank you. Matthew, 1879. Anne is here. Green Dragon. Where did Anne go? Anne was here. Taste Vim. Anne's there somewhere. Anne, while Unjkar. A Roundhouse. Tone, thank you. And all of our other viewers. Thank you for watching. What Are You Kidding Me? Thanks for watching. Also, Progressive Dub, thanks for watching. Old Mordeem, and everybody else. Hey, Michael Clayton, thanks for the Facebook stars, Michael Clayton. Michael thinks there will be regime change soon, and that the people of Iran have expressed interest in having a democracy and freedom. That's what Michael thinks. Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Jai B. Levy, for watching. And Stasha Morgan. Hey, Callie Voltaire, that's very generous of you. Thank you so much for your support of the channel. Callie Voltaire, thanks for shouting out the mods as well. That's very nice of you. Barry Eisler, thanks for watching. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. But again, we'll be keeping our eyes on this. I'm sure I will be reporting more on it. If you missed it, rewind and check it out. And we'll see where all this goes. I hope it's not to a very violent place, but we'll have to see where all this is going. We just don't know. All right, guys. So that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.